Hello, I'm Santana. I'm pretty sure you know who Alexandra Bracken is, but in case you don't, she's the amazing author of the Darkest Minds trilogy and the Passenger duology and the Prosper reading books that I haven't read yet. A couple of weeks ago, she shared on her Instagram story the revision process she does for every single one of her chapters. Under the chapter's title, she has the Inciting Incident. Now, this is basically that is going to hook your readers into continue reading chapter by chapter. This is not a cliffhanging chapter ending exactly, and it's not really the main purpose of the chapter, but it's rather an action. The action is going to keep the readers hooked. This is the thing that really sets your story into motion. The Inciting Incident is something that's gonna have to have your readers hooked, that's gonna have them with urgency or preoccupied for the main character. In order for you to identify it into each of your chapters, it is the thing that raises more questions to the reader. It's basically what's going to have your readers like gasping that it's not your ending. And it's the motivation that you're gonna give them in order to continue reading for the next chapter. Now, next she has a blog that is a plot summary, and in here she lists another set of things that she needs to check for that exist inside of the chapter. Now, after this, she lists the goal, which is exactly what it is. It's the purpose of the chapter. And I feel like this is the most important one of all the aspects to consider because it is the reason of existence of that specific chapter. Why is that chapter inside of your story? Why is that important into your book? It has to have a main purpose inside of your story, either for the character or for the plot or for the world. If you can find easily the main goal into one of your chapters, you can either rewrite it, really search for that goal and emphasize it, or delete it from the existence of your manuscript. Inside of your goal, it's what you intend to tell or to demonstrate or to emphasize. Now, later she lists the conflict. These are just basically the obstacles or the struggles that either the character or the plot encounters inside of that chapter. In the case of the conflict, I feel like it is really important that at least 95% of all of your manuscript chapters has a conflict. Because a conflict is what makes the story interesting. It's like, what's a hero without a villain? What's a story without any conflict? It's just boring. But after the conflict, we later have the disaster. That is basically when the character or the plot encounters a failure in order to fulfill their main goal. This is something that most regularly just happens. It's not exactly something that your character does. After the disaster, she follows up with the reaction, and this is completely focused on the character, and it's the follow-up of the disaster that happened from them. This is that specific part of your chapter in which you take the time to show the emotions of the character, how he acts, how he speaks, how his emotions are. Now, the dilemma is the set of choice or the set of options that either the character or the reader are gonna see that add up to no good. This means that there are no good options to follow through. There's only bad things that are gonna happen from that dilemma. This is where you're going to let your reader be worried either about the character or the plot, the story itself. This is where basically your reader is going to be like, man, there's no possible way this is going to end well. Because you don't want to let your reader easily figure out how you're going to end your story or how things are going to very nicely wrap up. Now, after that dilemma comes the decision inside of the chapter. This is where your character or your plot becomes proactive again. You can find the decision of your chapter the moment you give your character a new goal to start for in the next chapter. This is where you set the ground for what your next chapter is going to be like or what will be the purpose of your next chapter. Because all your chapters are connected together and are related to each other, you have to put little sprinkles of what is next to come in the next chapter inside of the chapter before that. So yes, is the decision most likely your character is going to make or the decision that you're going to make in order to move your plot forward. After that, she just puts a little section in which she has like changes to make. She says, well, maybe I need to fix X, or I need to replace Y, or I need to emphasize Z. These are just like the notes she makes to herself in order to come back later and see all the little things, on all the little details that she needs to change later on. After that, she just leaves a little section for the character notes, like maybe it's something she needs to check on for later, for the next revision, or the specific goal of each of the characters inside of the chapter, or maybe she just wants to emphasize the growth that each of the characters have. After that, she leaves another little section for some theme notes or some theme reflections. Like maybe in this chapter you set a specific metaphor that relates to the theme of your entire book, or maybe on this chapter you need to put something that relates to the theme because there's nothing at all. And finally, after that, she has what every chapter I feel must have, the ending hook. Again, this is what you're going to motivate your readers into reading and continuing the next chapter. I do feel like 95% of the chapters should have a very impactful ending. If everything is resolved within the end of each chapter and it's just like conflict and resolving, there's nothing really pushing me forward into reading the next chapter or into continuing the story at all. It doesn't have to be like a super cliffhanger for every single chapter, but it's just a nice way in which you're going to wrap up every single one. Yes, all chapters are connected and related to each other, but I also feel like we should treat each of them like a really short story inside of your main story. You gotta give them purpose, you gotta give them sometimes an introduction, you gotta give them like a knot or a conflict in the middle of them, and then you're gonna give them some resolvence or some cliffhanger at the end of the chapter. Maybe it could be something really simple like an action or a sentence or a relevance. Maybe it's something new that you are gonna reveal to the reader, like maybe something about the plot or something about the world. Feel the easiest aspect to look forward and to find, because it's literally the ending. What is the ending of the chapter? And is that ending exciting and hooking for the reader to keep on reading? So that's all I have to say about the hair revision process. I'm gonna have the document linked in the description and available for you to download if that's something you want to do or you want to just check it out. And if you haven't read any of her books, you really should. They're really good, and she's a really amazing writer. And you should follow her on Instagram because she shares like pretty great advice on her Instagram stories. The template I just typed, it's gonna be linked down below in order for you to download if you want to. Thanks for watching. I'm Santana. Bye!